welcome to yet another episode of the Retro Seller, where today we'll be reviewing the Anbernic RG351P handheld console. This thing I ordered from the Banggood website. I do frequent business with them. Interesting story as far as the shipping is concerned. Through no fault of Banggood, this is an issue with the U.S. Postal Service that I'm sure many of you had issues with these past couple months. I ordered this on December 8th of last year, was shipped by Banggood within 24 hours, arrived a few days later in a warehouse in New Jersey, where it sat until just a few days ago. It is now January 26th, I believe, as I'm recording this. So it took about that long to get here. And looking at the USPS website, following my tracking number, according to them, it's still sitting in the warehouse. But nevertheless, I have it in my hand. What to say about this thing? You've probably seen my review of the Gamebox Hero, which is a Raspberry Pi system. How much I enjoyed that. This is more or less a handheld version of that. Not exactly. It's a different operating system, obviously, but as far as what it can do is very similar. And can't say enough good things about this, which we will get into. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Nothing is. It's supposed to play anything from Atari 2600 to Dreamcast. We'll get into the Dreamcast part as we take a closer look at it. But I would say anything from Atari 2600 to PS1, it runs very well with minimal issues. Some of the emulators don't work well with some of the ROMs and vice versa. But the good thing is, this thing is very customizable. You can upgrade firmware, add different operating systems, add different kinds of emulators. There's tons that you can do with this thing, which we won't get into so much of that. There's other resources out there which I may link down below. RetroCore, I believe, is a YouTube channel that really breaks this thing down as far as what you can do with it, upgrading it. But one of the things that I really wanted this for is I love TurboGrafx 16 games. Always loved it. So much so that I had purchased years ago, at the time that this thing was new, the Turbo Express. But look at the size of this thing. Obviously, there's several decades in development between these two things. But the screen on this, nowhere near what you can do with this thing. This thing fits in the hand better than this. But to play the TurboGrafx 16 games in a handheld device, it's just, to me, it's phenomenal. Obviously, you can play Game Gear things on it as well, in a significantly smaller and more capable. But it's a great device. Like I said, I can't say enough good things about it. So why don't we just take a closer look at it, show you some of the things you can do with it. I'll show you in the meantime some of the specs for you nerds out there. I don't usually post this kind of thing. As I said, there are other websites that do it better as far as their more in-depth reviews. I'm more geared towards the player aspect of it. The fact that you can pretty much play this right out of the box. And then as you get braver, you can do some research and figure out what else you can do with it. So why don't we just look at it and see what games play well on it. Here we have the box. We'll do a little unboxing here of the Anbernic 351P. As you can see, the box is pretty much no frills. So why don't we open it up, see what we get inside. Yeah, nothing special with the packaging. Not as cheap as some of the other ones. The Pal Kitty J6 came in a terrible box. This one's actually pretty sturdy. And there you have the actual system here. Got a little dust on it. And what you get inside is just a USB-C cable. This is my first handheld with USB-C. Everything else it has a micro SD or a mini, but Anbernic is up with times and is using a USB-C. You also get a manual with it. That is in both Chinese and English. I thought we would get a more in-depth manual. It basically just shows you how to start it up and shut it down. You just don't hit the power button to turn it off. You should actually just shut it down like you would a computer or a Raspberry Pi. Show some basic functions of the buttons, which you can remap on this as well. There are a couple games that do require remapping, at least for my personal preferences. Key settings, how to copy games. I did it exactly as they said it. I downloaded Disk Genius. If you were to load your SD card into your computer, as mine did, it did not recognize the separate files that the games ROMs are listed in. So Disk Genius does actually recognize the additional file and allows you to drag and drop any ROMs that you have, remove ones that you don't like from the system, or add ones that may not be on it. Other than that, there's really not much to the manual, unfortunately, but you know, what are you gonna do? So here we have a look at the RG351P. One thing I have to say about these handheld systems, they keep getting better and better the more they put them out. That's the plus side to it. The downside to it is that they're developing so fast that shortly after you receive yours, it's probably already obsolete, and these companies have already put out a better version. I was actually looking forward to getting the RG350, either the P or the M, P being the plastic, M being the metal version. This is a 351P, therefore plastic, although a good quality plastic. But by the time I had my sights set on it, they had already come out with the 351P. So that was state of the art for Anbernic at the time. By the time I actually received it, they had already come out with the 351M, the metal version, which is more or less the build quality is better, obviously, because it's metal. Not sure if the chipset is any different, but this is more or less already obsolete. And probably by spring or summer, they'll probably have an RG352P or an M shortly thereafter. But that doesn't diminish the capabilities of the thing. So, as I said, let's just take a look at it. Right off the bat, you can tell that the build quality is just phenomenal compared to the Pal Kitty J6. They're roughly the same size. Pal Kitty is longer. But anyway, the build quality of this, this is a cheaper plastic, jiggly. The buttons aren't as good. This analog stick is an absolute nightmare and completely useless. I mean, you can hear how it rubs. I mean, this is terrible. Although this reviewed well for what it was, I believe I got this thing for $28. So, you know, it's capable, and was probably one of my favorite Chinese handhelds until this one came. The buttons are phenomenal. This D-pad is great. Buttons are all nice and clicky as they should be. The analog sticks, although they're very good quality, I must say they're very good. I'm not a fan of where they're positioned. To play with the analog stick, um, it, I would have preferred this up here and the D-pad down here. Um, it's just awkward playing it this way. It's not comfortable by any means. Great quality, but I'm not a fan of the position. If they could have swapped these out, at least on this side, I would have been fine with it. But I mean, I don't really use it, especially for the more retro systems like the Ataris and whatnot. I'm not going to use this for 2D scrollers. Um, wouldn't mind it on 3D games and uh, the shooters, for instance, R-Type. This would be great, but as it stands now, the way it is, I'm mostly using the D-pad. There aren't too many games that I have that really utilize the right analog, but I mean, it's not bad. You have your select, your start. Your buttons over here are good. You have your triggers up here, which are your L1, L2, R2, R1. Not bad. I mean, they're in a good position. You can see they even wrap around the corners. Sound great. Don't use them all that much as far as the games that I have in it. But again, you could remap each game to actually utilize these buttons. You have up on the top your OTG. This is like for connecting it to your computer. If you want to transfer ROMs that way. I didn't do it that way. I did it by taking the TF card out and putting that into the computer. You have a second OTG slash charging. This is where you put your USB Type-C to charge. You have your headphone jack. I actually haven't used it yet. The only thing I have is actually a Bluetooth earphones that are functioning. Although it has a function in here to set up your Bluetooth, I don't believe there is a chip or device in it that you can actually connect it to your Bluetooth. Also does not have Wi-Fi on it. The first systems that they first put out had Wi-Fi on it, but I believe it was causing interference with the audio. So when they shipped out later versions of it, they removed that. So if you want to connect this to your computer or however connect it to the Wi-Fi, you would have to purchase a Wi-Fi dongle and plug it in here. I don't believe they're that expensive. And once you have it in there, you can easily configure it on your system and then hook it up to your internet. And that way would be an easier way to update the firmware and whatnot. On the bottom, you have a reset button, and this is where your TF card goes in, which I believe contains, might contain the operating system, but your ROMs are on there, and this is what I take out and load it up onto the computer and transfer ROMs. And on the side, you also have a power button and a volume slider. So why don't we power this bad boy up and take a look at it. Here's your load screen. If you heard that little vibration, there is actually some vibration on it that functions for certain games just as it would have on your PlayStation controller or your Dreamcast that I believe had vibration on it. This is the main menu that pops up. It shows you, it goes in alphabetical order. These are some of the Atari 2600 games that I loaded up myself. It did not come with any of these. Again, all these I loaded up myself. Some of my favorites, actually. These are some of the 5200 games that I loaded. These are the Link games that I put up so far. They all work. The ones that remain on it. CPS 1, 2, 3 games. Dreamcast games. Again, we'll get into that. These games came preloaded on it. Capcom versus Marvel, I believe that one is. Crazy Taxi, Ikaruga, Power Stone, which I loaded that on, and I don't believe it's functioning right, so I have to fish around for a ROM for that or an emulator that'll play it. Sonic Adventure came with it, and Soul Blade, which to us in the US is Soul Calibur. One of the best games on the Dreamcast. The ones that they put on it, they run okay. They're not perfect. They stutter around. They drop frames, get sluggish in some areas, but they're playable. And those are the ones they loaded on here to showcase the system. You have here easy RPG games. I'm unfamiliar with these, nor am I a fan of RPGs, so I haven't really perused those yet. These are Final Burn Neo arcade system games. Bunch of neat ones in here. Game Gear games. These all run great on it, as they should. Huge selection of games. Game Boy games. Game Boy Advance run phenomenally on here. The Game Boy games, by the way, look great on it. You'd swear you were playing an actual Game Boy with a backlit screen, however. Game Boy Color games, tons on here. There are 178 of these. You got your Sega Genesis games, again loaded with tons of these bad boys on it. Sega Genesis Hacks. Look at that, Virtual Fighter 2. I mean, it's, again, loaded, tons and tons of these games. Main games, your arcade games. Not a horribly large amount on it. Here's one that I added, Silkworm, which is one of my all-time favorite shooters. Plays great on this thing. Mega Drive, as it is known in Japan and overseas. Loaded with, again, tons of these things on here as well. 307 Mega Drive games. And another way you could go around is by searching for your games alphabetically, should you want. And if you go into this other menu, which is Mega Drive Classic Games, click on that. As you can see, there are 638 of those games on this little handheld. Okay, so you have MSX games. Looks like there's 10 of those. Some Nintendo 64 games. Nintendo 64 games don't run well on many systems. It didn't run well on the Gamebox Hero, the Raspberry Pi. The games, again, that they have here showcase what they can play, sort of. Mario Kart stutters a little bit, but once it gets rolling, it's pretty decent. Super Mario 64 runs pretty good on it. But there are a lot of games that don't run well on this, and that's one of the cons of this system. Naomi, this is the Sega arcade system. The menus obviously animate. You can see how the sound is on this thing as well. Let's crank that down a little bit. Some of the menus actually show you footage of the games on it, so you can kind of get an idea of what it is if you're unfamiliar. Be neat if all of them did that, but this is kind of cool. You have Nintendo DS, another system that it plays good on it, but I don't think any DS system plays as well as it does on a regular DS, simply because the DS is two screens. You have one on the top and one on the bottom. The top one being the one is where your gameplay screen is. A lot of what the games do on here is they split it on this one little screen. Again, they're most of them are playable, but I wouldn't recommend playing those games. A lot of them on here. Neo Geo games. Loaded with a decent amount on here. I haven't exactly counted them since they're not numbered. But Neo Geo is known for some of the best 2D side-scrolling fighting games. You have your Nintendo. 297 of these. Nintendo hacks. There are 405 of these. Regular NES games, that is. Neo Geo Pocket. There are 37 of these. PC games. You're not talking current PC, obviously. These are relatively old ones. I haven't, again, perused these. PC Engine, the Japanese European version of the TurboGrafx 16. So this contains the games as they were over there, many of them that you can't play in this region in the US. You have your PGM Polygame system. The battery on this thing, should have mentioned it before, is 3,500 mAh. Supposed to last for 8 hours, according to Anbernic. It's probably closer to 5 or 6, however. Plenty of time to play. If you're sitting there playing for 8 hours or more on a handheld system, you're either on a long airplane flight or you need a life. Get off it. Don't be on it that long. It'll rot your brain. PSP games. Another one that functions okay on it. I haven't really zipped around in this so much because there's other stuff I've been doing on it. I haven't had it all that long. But it's loaded with a ton of games. PlayStation games. I haven't had any problem with any of these running. First time I actually played Tarzan was on here. It's a beautiful game. These all run fine. I haven't had any issues with really any of these. One of the games I think had an issue with sound. Would stutter a little bit at the beginning, but eventually ran fine. It's got the Tomb Raiders on it. Playing Tomb Raider on a handheld. Who would have thought? 32X games. These weren't actually on here. I uploaded these myself. I own all of these. It's why they're here, because I actually have these. Including Colibri, which, if I'm saying that right, is an odd side-scrolling shooter with a hummingbird. It's a valuable game from 32X. I think that thing is going for a few $100s. And I actually have it. When I saw how much it's going for, I'm like, maybe if I sell this thing, I can get myself a pinball machine. So, we'll see. Sega CD games. I believe these are region-locked ones. Like, if you try to upload ROMs for the Sega CD from America, they don't play on here. I was trying to upload what is it? This Haunted Mansion RPG game on it that I actually own, but it didn't run on here. And Mickey Mania, I was trying to upload and it didn't run. Again, you can get an emulator that would run it, but these are Sega CD games that are on it as it stands now. Super Nintendo has 183 of those games, and in the classic section it has an unnumbered amount for some reason. TurboGrafx 16, so the American version of the PC Engine games, they didn't actually have any TurboGrafx 16 games on it, so I uploaded my own ROMs that I had Again, I actually own these, and I'm familiar with them, which is why they're here. Virtual Boy, can you believe it? I actually have the Virtual Boy, if you saw it in the background at the opening of this video. The games are by design. You're supposed to be wowed more by the 3D aspect of it. That is not viewable in that fashion on this system, obviously. So take away the only redeeming quality being the 3D aspect of it, and these games aren't very good. But it's probably better to play it this way, because you can only play the Virtual Boy games for about 10 minutes before you're overwhelmed with a ridiculous headache. Okay, so you have Wonder Swan Color. And this is a favorite screen that you can set up so you don't have to go through the menu and to find your favorite games. You can actually load them up on this screen. So why don't we start taking a look at some of these? How about we look at... there's E.T. the Extraterrestrial. I put that there on purpose. Custer's Revenge. I'm not going to play it just in case there's any kids on here. This is an example of a company not monitoring the third-party developers, and that's a little X-rated game. I'm sure if you go on YouTube and look at Custer's Revenge Atari 2600, you can see what I mean. But it's a naughty game. As you can see, there's a bit of a sound issue. I don't know if you can hear that. I don't know if that's an issue with the system or the actual the ROM itself. That is a rare occurrence. Doesn't usually happen on the other games. Here is Street Fighter 2 for the CPS 2 or CPS 1 system. You can tell I stink at these side-scrolling games, get my butt kicked. So we're going to scoot over to the Dreamcast to show you the issues with this thing. This is Soul Calibur, but yeah, that part sounds great. Watch when it starts up. There you go. Hear that? Hear that? Now when you play it, it'll stutter a little bit. Mostly the sound. Look what it's doing with the screen there. So as I said, Dreamcast doesn't run perfectly. Hear that? But as you can see, it is playable. Here is R-Type for the Sega Game Gear. Alright, here we have for the Game Boy, Super Mario Land, my all-time favorite game on the Game Boy, as well as probably my favorite Mario game. This thing I can't tell you the countless hours I had playing this, and I haven't played this in many years, so this brings back some crazy memories. Vaguely even remember how to play it, but I remember certain things on it. Oop, my light just burned out on the side here. Here is Silkworm, one of the main games that I added. And I die right off the bat. Alright, like I said, I can't really see the screen from where I'm viewing this. So now we'll show you Super Mario Kart 64 from the Nintendo 64 to show you how not quite perfect on here. Again, it's playable, but it has its issues.
Select your player. Let's go.
Okay. See that? Started just a little bit there. Hear that? I'm using the analog stick here. So you can see it didn't start off all that great. Once it gets going, it seems like the system picks it up, and then it becomes playable. And you'll have an occasional frame drop, little audio stutter, but other than that, it runs pretty darn good. It looks great. So that's why it's on here, because it's playable. So here we have Metal Slug 6. This was on the Naomi Sega arcade system. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's the system that Sega actually used for the stand-up arcade games that you'd go to at the mall or wherever. These weren't home systems, although I believe you could get motherboards now and play them at home if you wanted to. Get a little stutter there. I mean, look, it looks great. Maybe dropping a frame here or there. Thank you. You're welcome. One thing you can do on these, when you go back to the menu, most of the games, you can save your game and then pick up wherever you left off. That's pretty awesome. There's a few that I have saved, but that's a nice feature. So this is Super Mario on the DS. As you can see, your right analog stick works the pretend stylus that you see there. It works, but the actual stylus would probably be much easier. But you can see it looks great. One other thing you could do is, see that? You can toggle between what would be your bottom screen on DS to the top screen. So, although the game itself is playable, that's weird that you gotta do that. But look it looks great. Guess I should move that stylus out of the way, huh? There's another silly way you could play it where both screens are on at the same time. But I don't know why you'd want to play that way. But I should play this more often so I could get halfway decent at it. I have a heck of a time getting these power-ups on it, the way they go up and down like that. Here is Tarzan for the PlayStation 1. And here we go, still on the PlayStation with Tomb Raider. See, it's hard to get her to walk straight. Again, I don't seem to remember whether or not it did that on the actual PlayStation controller. But, you know, it's playable, and it looks just as good or bad, depending on your perspective, as it did on the original PlayStation. So here we have Colibri on the Sega 32X, the very hard to find, very expensive Hummingbird side-scrolling shooter. It's a beautiful game. Showcases the Sega 32X rather well. Here we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time, for the Super Nintendo. These, of course, as you would expect, play flawlessly on this system. There's a version of Devil's Crush for the Sega Genesis that was named, I believe it was Dragon's Fury. Probably renamed it because Sega didn't like devil being used. But even though the Genesis was technically a superior system, it was a true 16-bit system, TurboGrafx 16 was an 8-bit system with a 16-bit graphics chip. So they said TurboGrafx 16, but it was really an 8-bit. But the version on the TurboGrafx 16 is better than the one on the Genesis, in my opinion. Musically, graphically, the ball mechanics or physics are better on here. Just like it better. Don't we just for fun show you, I don't even know what I'm saying onto here, what a Virtual Boy game looks like on here. Again, you're supposed to be wowed by that effect if you're viewing it in 3D. Probably by the time you get past the load screen, you would already have been developing a headache. I love that red monochrome. As you can see, and it was like this in the actual system, the Virtual Boy system. It's real sluggish. Look how slow everything moves. This is not a malfunction of the RG351. This is what it was like to play it on the Virtual Boy. So when you want to turn off the system, the best way to do that isn't just to hit the power button. Hit start and go down to quit. Shut down system. Yes. The safest, best way to do it. Alright, there you have it. My review of the RG351P. In summary, it is a terrific handheld. I'm glad I purchased it. I definitely don't regret it, even at that price point of $109 that I paid for it. You can get it other places besides Banggood, like AliExpress, Retro Mimi, and others. Just have to do your research. I don't regret purchasing it, and I know I'm going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it, and I highly recommend it to you. And that'll do it. That'll wrap up this episode of The Retro Seller, and thanks for watching.